And welcome,
Oh.
Qeeshon.
Hey.
So since you're on here, Monica, before I go to Brian, we'll go to you. What's an underrated or forgotten cartoon, anime, or animated movie that you remember, but some left may not remember?
I want to tell him the ones that we've already covered. Too.
Well,
Oh,
no, let's see what
so
he's
we,
got. Let's see what he's got. Let's
so
see
we,
what he's got.
oh, yeah.
Well, I was gonna say, I mean, since Bob mentioned what all the ones that were covered so far, just give me like a couple, because
Some of them were mentioned. Road Rovers, Sam and
Captain Simeon.
Max,
Captain Simeon and the Space Monkeys.
Captain Simeon and the Space Monkeys. And then
Bionic
some about
6,
Yep.
Bionic 6,
Cyber 6.
Cyber 6,
That time I got reincarnated as a slime.
Slime, and a few others. Yeah,
Oh no, that was going to be my next one.
and then
Next
something
one.
about
Whoops.
something about space cowboys.
Oh,
Yeah.
Wild West Cowboys of Moo Mesa.
Yep.
Yes.
So yeah,
And my other one was.
we've mentioned a bunch of bizarre cartoons
Oh yeah.
in like the past 50 minutes.
Oh, is it wrong to try to pick up girls in a dungeon? That's the one.
Yeah, that was one.
That's
Yeah.
what it
Yeah.
was.
And reincarnated as a slime is coming up later.
Spoilers.
So those are the cartoons we missed. So, and we were also talking about animated movies as well because I feel like there are some underrated animated films as well.
Road to El Dorado, number one.
Yeah.
Love that one.
Yes.
Kenneth
Treasure
Branagh.
Planet, another great one.
It got out. It's such a good movie, but when it came out around the same time as Harry Potter, so it got overshadowed. Sadly. But yeah, what's the cartoon you may remember that we may not remember or know of or heard of?
So I'm gonna shoot in the dark with this one, but one cartoon that I distinctly remember, and I think the reason why I bring it up is because I watch bits and clips of it on YouTube every now and then, is the show called Static Shock.
Mm,
Yeah.
Yeah.
such a good show. They don't make superhero shows like that, especially with the
Yeah.
stuff they talked about.
Phil
I-
Lamar in the title character.
Yes. I was tempted to include either that or the Zeta Project in mine, but I figured DC Animated Universe. I know a lot of people who talk about that, so I don't know how obscure it really is.
The Zeta Prime, is that the one with the robot?
Yes.
Yeah, that character was in an episode of Batman Beyond. If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So what was it about Static Shock that you liked, Qeeshon?
Well, some of the things that I liked about the show, mainly the one thing that sticks out is basically over the course of the show, it would basically go about addressing like real life issues. Like one episode that's like a super old episode, it talks about how kids and guns, and then another episode talking about learning disabilities with Rubber Band Man's dyslexia.
Mhm.
Just like a lot of, I want to say a good handful of the episodes that entire show, it really took the time to like sit down and like tackle like real life issues that nobody would even think about. Because let's be honest, as a kid watching it on a Saturday morning, it's like I'm watching a good show. I got my bowl of Captain Crunch and
Yes.
just munching. But it's like as an adult now, and then looking back at it, it's like, yeah, you really start to think that, wow, this show it really talked a lot of deep knowledge that
It punches you right in the gut.
Which is true to the original comic, if I remember right, when it was with Malibu Comics,
Mhm.
as it was originally. The whole idea was that whole line of comics would deal with social issues in an honest way.
Yeah.
yeah basically touch on like social like events that are taking shape. Like one episode that I remember was dealing with racism
with Richie's
when
dad.
Virgil,
Yeah.
But yeah, and it's just so crazy that such a good show just kind of went unnoticed. And I remember watching a video not too long ago too that it had Phil Lamar talking that the reason why the show didn't get, like, essentially the show eventually got canceled
Yeah, I remember that.
for reasons, and Phil Lamar basically revealed that the reason that the show was canceled was because it never got a toy deal.
Yeah, that's the
Really?
death of a lot of cartoons. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm,
we've
I'm
some of those
discussed that
very
with
surprised.
a
popular.
I would have loved to have
yeah,
a Static Shock toy.
we've discussed that with a couple of these already.
Yeah, and one of the bigger issues with ones like Static Shock, and there's a few that did special episodes, live action shows did it too back in the '80s and stuff. Was you get a little too real, you're straying away from the escapism they're supposed to represent, and a lot of these companies don't want to touch that, so they don't want to be associated, and it's unfortunate. But yeah, Static Shock was victim of that back then. One of the ones that's on my list kind of got ostracized for it because it's like I don't want to watch a cartoon and have to sit there and cry for 10 minutes after the episode and stuff. But you remember like Silver Spoons, Bob, when they had that
Ye-
special episode with they shot the deer and shit like that, or Different Strokes had the one about the pedophile, shit like that. They had a lot of like quote unquote real ones, and that
I
were just
watched those shows, but I don't remember those particular episodes. I do remember one of All in the Family where Edith's
was raped.
drag queen friend was murdered.
Yeah,
So
that, and then when she was raped and stuff, they had a
yeah,
lot of these special subject episodes, but they prefaced it a little heavy-handedly. And when you do that with a cartoon, you're interjecting a little too much realism that I guess some of the powers that be thought it might have been more appropriate for the parents to discuss with their kids and not a cartoon. And
Same thing happened with Captain Planet.
Captain Planet was doomed from the beginning because of just
yeah,
poor marketing. That had no chance to begin with.
yeah.
I mean, you can't promote environmentalism and then have a billion tons of fucking plastic as your hook. It's like wait, what? Yeah, there was a lot of.
That's not
Anyway,
the only thing that was bad
Oh
about that.
no, not at all. But I mean, you start
Speaking
adding
of-
one thing on top of another, It's like, man, you guys are.
but no,
But-
I agree with Qeeshon about Static Shock. It was a good show. A lot
Oh
of
God, it was great.
a lot of
Yeah.
educated,
Yeah.
but the network's like, wait, this show is about a kid with electric powers fighting crime and stuff, and all these these mutants. Why are we talking about racism and like, well, because like I even think the showrunners were like, well, I think the showrunners are like, well, I think teaching these things, because you're not going to be taught these things in school. So what better way to be taught than through a show with someone who is dealing with this stuff on a daily basis?
Yeah, but then you get
Yeah.
parents and special interest groups that get in there. It's like, no, you can't do that. There's a lot of downfalls to
Ooh.
actually getting a little too real. It's just unfortunate because it really.
I want to be an adult. I want to eat my Captain Crunch. I don't want to watch about
Yeah.
personal life issues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's
Well, and also I
unfortunate.
think
Oh.
another reason. Well, and I
ahead,
think
Sean.
another reason that also led to the show eventually getting canceled was because of the fact that I think it was arguably one of the first like DC superhero movies where the main character was, and going off script here, where the main character was indeed a young black teenager, and it's like you don't really see a lot of like
Mm-mm.
main characters of color or gender.
Certainly not at the time. No.
No, yeah,
No,
definitely
no,
not at the
I
time.
mean, you wouldn't see that until like way later.
Whereas now you just see a bunch of shows where everyone's different gender, different race, and it's just like, honestly, I just kind of wish that most shows these days just weren't so woke. And not to spark a debate in the comments or anything, but like personally, I just feel like ever since the whole concept of going woke, a lot of shows have suffered like immensely, just trying to change its format and adaptation. Like, for example, who here is? I think we can all agree and say that we've all watched the Rugrats growing up.
Mhm.
Of course.
All right, who here knows Phil and Lil's mom?
I mean, I think anyone
Yeah.
and their mother would.
Yeah, she was
Yes.
very portrayed as a butch lesbian almost, even though she wasn't ever called out as one.
No.
Yeah, and it's like back in the original show, it's like she would have that like strong feminine like characteristic.
But
Mhm.
portrayed very differently, in appearance. Oh yeah, no, that was that. Hell yeah, she was great.
Cartoons now, some cartoons nowadays have changed, and I'm not trying to get any hate from the comments or banned on here, but I do agree with Qeeshon. Like it's not more so it's forced. Like back then we didn't know, but now it's more obvious, to say the least.
Yeah. But
And honestly, I feel like one of the only cartoons that really touched on like in terms of like the LGBT side of things was Steven Universe because
Mhm.
sure.
In my opinion, and also an underrated show too.
Yeah.
oh yeah, definitely because it's
Huge
like
following, but very niche and very specific. Absolutely.
That and Owl House, like those are the type of creators, including Adventure Time. Like they were like the type of creators who would like what would have a show like that back in the '90s, but it was just the time frame they had it on. Is like it's when, yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's crazy. Um, by the way, welcome Qeeshon to this band of misfit nerds.
aren't we all?
Yeah.
Oh yes, yes.
Some more than others. Yeah.
Brian, to you now. What's a animated show that you may remember that, or anyone who may here remember, because it seems like we're all remembering them now.
Well,
That you felt is underrated or forgotten, whether it's a cartoon, anime, or an animated movie.
Well, my list is gigantic, and there's something wrong with my brain, so I don't ever forget anything. But there's one that I'd mentioned in the Facebook thing that since we talked about approaching more adult subjects and stuff, Brave Star had one about drugs,
Brave
and
Star.
it was
What's
called
he?
Spin, and a kid actually freaking died. They actually showed part of a kid's corpse in that show, and it was about interstellar, the old west in space. And
Brave.
Brave Star's companion was a horse that had this gigantic shotgun and stuff.
Is the
Um,
main character
he was Native American or
okay?
in space, and was done really well
Oh,
for
I
the
like the
time.
art. I like the art style.
Oh yeah, it was great.
Who's that weird little Ewok looking character
I
next to him that looks like Snarf from
well, oh,
Thundercats?
from Thundercats. He was native to the planet he was on, but it was basically like New Mexico and Arizona, but in space and stuff. And that
Charlie
one,
Adler. I know him. He voiced Cow and Cow Chicken.
well, yeah, and Buster Bunny, and yeah, he's
Also underrated. Also another
Oh, yeah.
underrated show.
yeah. Oh, Cow and Chicken, yeah, that's great.
Pat Fraley voices the character Marshall Bravestar. Has a 7 out of 10 on IMDb. Lasted from September of '87 to '80. Wow, that didn't last long.
No, it did not. And like I
I was
said, part
like,
of that was because it started touching on some serious stuff, and it was about law and order. And he had the spirit of the bear that he used, and that's it had it uh, really dealt with a lot of indigenous people or Native Americans or whatever you want to call them beliefs, and it was presented in a sci-fi manner. And then, like I said, with the "Just Say No" campaign with Nancy Reagan and stuff, you had the drug episode and blah blah blah. But I think it touched on too much of that stuff way too early. But it was a very well done show.
I only lasted only 5 months.
Yeah,
Again, I like what
Dang.
Qeeshon was saying. It's
yeah.
weird how like back then they didn't want to have all this stuff.
Nope.
Again, this is no hate. We on here are very, you know, inclusive with a lot of things, and I will say yes that back then they didn't really want to. The networks didn't really want this stuff to be shown, so it wasn't acceptable. Nowadays, it's more acceptable. It's just like it's becoming more obvious that it's because. And again, no hate. I'm trying not to make anyone upset or mad. Trust me, that's not our thing here on this
Yeah.
series.
No, and it
This
was
is
a
just
very
these
heavy-handed
are
episode
just
for the subject matter.
oh
It's
yeah.
just that all the way around, the stuff you're dealing with, I don't think anybody was really prepared for. But it was a good one. I liked it. Um, it just of course, at my age, I was a little older than I think the target audience, but I don't think it really had one because, okay, much like myself, minority and a minority, I'm half Mexican, well, bisexual, half Mexican. So where the hell do I fit in on some of this stuff? And then, I'm not a Native American child, so I don't really relate to that end of it. I've never been to space, so I don't really, but some of those, the subjects and stuff, then I don't think it really had a target audience. And then when you throw in some of that realism, they're like, who the hell is this for? And what are you trying to say? And then it just kind of spiraled out. There was a few around then that were trying to do that kind of stuff too. And I think they were hiding a few things and then were very overt on others, much like when Qeeshon was talking about with Static Shock. It's like, yeah, you've got this here. Let's be a little bit more real about it. But maybe the presentation is what people weren't ready for. And I don't know in the 80s who Brave Star would have been for, but it was very well done show. I did like that one. And I'm sure nobody else really remembers it, unfortunately.
Yeah, I had to look it up. I had never heard of it.
Yeah, see, yeah.
Neither have I. And again, it only lasted 5 months. So that's
Yeah.
just like the network. That's just like the network saying, "Hey,
Yep, nope, you're not doing
like,
this shit." Yeah.
No, not now. Like,
A lot of do's and don'ts.
I have nothing against cartoons nowadays where they talk about this stuff because it's more acceptable. It's just I think like the studios or the networks were like, hey, we appreciate what you're doing, but I don't think people are ready for this kind of stuff yet because the times are different. Like with each era, time progresses, so it's like, okay, this is more acceptable, So the further we go in time, the further we progress, the more things become acceptable to showing kids cartoons.
Well, the one that I had mentioned earlier, the Bionic Six, one of the things in that was always really interesting, and I forgot to mention it then, was IQ in the show was an adopted child that was black. He was a black kid that white family adopted, but they weren't overt about it. It was just one of those integrated things, and that's another one that didn't last very long, probably because it just had poor ratings because nobody really was ready for a lot of that kind of stuff. But not the adoption end of it, just the subject matter alone. It was very interesting. But there was attempts all the way through to present this stuff as like, hey, this is okay, that's okay, this is okay. But like some of the shows we're talking about, if you can't sell a toy line, you're out of business. And if you're too funny or too smart, like Road Rovers, you're turning off. You're
that's pretty much the things. Like if it's if it's not going to sell toys, then
especially in the 80s. Nowadays, it's a different story. Because I'll print whatever toy I want, but
you can if you want to print a space monkey from the show.
Oh yeah, I'll do it.
Just find
back in the day, that wasn't an option. Yeah.
Bob, up next. What do you got for us?
Well, I'm going to go with the a show that I'm putting in here to replace Captain Samian and the Space Monkeys after Brian stole my thunder.
All right, how dare you, Brian?
This is one of the kind of Barbera shows. You probably heard of the character. Was on ABC in 1974. For let's see, what does it say? 16 episodes, featuring the immortal Scatman Crothers as Hong Kong Phooey.
Yep.
I wasn't sure if you're going to go that route or not. Yeah.
Hong Kong
Phooey, number one super guy. Hong Kong Phooey, quicker than a human. I don't think anybody can really do Scatman Crothers' voice. There was an episode of Road Rovers where There was an episode of Road Rovers where Kevin Michael Richardson gave it a try, but Scatman Crothers was basically a one of a kind. I knew him best. I knew him best as the Garbage Man from the series Chico and the Man. You can also find him in the Twilight Zone movie and a few other things.
Kick the can.
A kung fu fighting superhero who was a janitor at a office building.
Yes, the police office building.
Yeah, that's how he heard about crimes and stuff and went to go solve them.
Yeah.
Man. Oh, so here's a fun fact about that. So a few years ago, it was canceled because Warner Brothers just made it as a tax write-off. But there's to be a live-action Hong Kong Phooey movie with
Eddie Murphy.
Eddie Murphy was supposed to voice Hong Kong.
I saw a test scene from it on YouTube, and it was awful.
It was supposed to tie in with like the live-action Scooby-Doo movie that came out years ago.
Mm-hmm. The other thing that I think probably killed that too, not just for the tax stuff, was the god awful Underdog. And they
wasn't that a Disney movie?
I don't know who had that.
Oh,
but
you're talking
both of
about the
those-
live action / CGI Underdog?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
both of those cartoons were on around the same time. So
Mhm.
if the one didn't do it, the other one certainly isn't going to. Racial
I remember
stereotypes
Hong Kong
aside.
Phooey on the Hanna-Barbera
The
cartoon set.
the
So
Underdog,
underrated.
the live action Underdog was fun. That the little test scene they did from Hong Kong Phooey it was terrible.
Hmm.
That's why we never got the Marvin the Martian one either with oh god,
Daffy Duck
Michael
as
Myers.
Duck Dodgers.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah,
my! How lovely!
yeah, Mike Myers was supposed to voice um Marvin the Martian in a live action movie where Marvin the Martian basically wanted to end Christmas.
Uh, yeah, but Hong Kong Phooey, this is
Yeah.
who won. He basically won the day primarily through dumb luck and a little help from his cat, who was
Yep.
smarter than him. The only thing that never really jived with me was that here was this anthropomorphic dog in a world where everybody else was human. There were no other anthropomorphic animals, except but it took a lot of superhero tropes and made complete fun of them in this most delightful way. He changed into costume by jumping into the top drawer of a file cabinet,
Yeah.
and then he would eventually come out the bottom once he figured out how to open the drawer from the inside. But
Oh man! I'm gonna find a GIF of that where it shows him changing into his.
Oh,
Yeah,
was,
so-
that was a good one. I remember that growing up as a kid.
yeah, that was.
The intro thing was the best. I'm sorry.
And this is one that I think young people today deserve to go out and find. Let me see where it's being shown.
Oh, that's right. He also his depending on how you look at it, his car was like a pagoda looking machine.
Yes, except it could change into anything. It could
Yeah.
change into any type of vehicle that he wanted.
I mean, in most cases, and depending on who you are, this could be either very great to watch or very offensive to watch, depending on who you are.
Yeah. Well, it was a parody of not only superhero but also of the kung fu craze that was going on at the time.
Yeah, that chop socky Saturday afternoon cinema stuff and everything.
Yeah. But it's still worth looking. I'm only seeing it right now at archive.org.
And Scatman Carruthers, he was also wasn't Scatman Carruthers also in
Transformers.
Yeah.
He was the original voice of Jazz.
Yeah, that was Jazz. Yep.
That makes sense.
Yep,
Okay.
that was Jazz. And he was Dick Halloran in The Shining.
That's
The Shining. That's the other one.
Yep.
Let's see.
Told you.
Hong Kong Phooey's at Just Watch also. That's all. I think. Looks like he may. I think. Well, everything's at almost anything you can get at Amazon if you're willing to pay for it. But
Warner Home Video released the complete series on 2-disc DVD in Region 1.
Oh, it did get a DVD release. Okay.
And wasn't there a toy line for Hong Kong Phooey?
Oh,
there might have
probably
been.
way after the fact.
There is. It's on Toy Wiz. It's a toy of Hong Kong Phooey with a striped cat, yellow striped cat.
The name Spot.
Yeah, Spot. Yeah, striped cat named Spot. Yeah, yeah.
So on Toy Wiz, it's going for $53 on Toy Wiz. And
that was an original era release for the toys. I don't remember. Well, then again, I was
it was probably later on, like in the 80s, when like
that's what I would think. Because, like I said,
Yeah.
around that time, I was getting Godzilla toys and shit like that and everything anyway. So I wasn't in Star Wars.
Yeah, it's fairly cheap online to buy the complete series.
He makes an occasional appearance. Ross Pearsall, who does the Super Team Family, the Lost Issues blog, does feature him up a little every once in a while. I'm looking at the page right now, and he that's under his tag. It's been a couple of years since he's been on, but I've seen him part up with Kung Fu Panda, Samurai Jack, Captain Carrot and the Zoo Crew, Chester Cheetah. and
No
he's part of he's part of an ad hoc team of Ross's called Ace and the Dogs of War,
Interesting.
which also has Canine, Dynamite, Lockjaw, and Underdog. So
Fioko, up next.
All right. I am going to touch on the only anime I have, explicit anime, because you can kind of argue Cyber 6, but whatever. The only dedicated anime I have on here, Trigun.
Oh,
The original
jeez.
1998 Trigun.
Voiced by
I love
one
that
Johnny,
anime.
Voiced by one Johnny Young Bosch.
Yeah. The
such a good and the movie wasn't bad. The movie wasn't bad either.
You know, I watched it the other day with my friend, and you know, that's after the original English dub studio Animes shut down. They brought in Johnny Young Bosch and no one else to reprise his role. And you know, this is a whole different conversation, but overall, I think there are some like really good English dubs of anime.
Mm-hmm.
I would say I was talking about this with my coworkers earlier today. Funimation, or I guess now Crunchyroll, is known for their quantity of anime dubs and not exactly their quality.
That's an understatement.
Yeah.
I mean, is it though?
I mean, you're not wrong.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Because I mean, you can have a good line of cast and crew, but it's like if the quality is gonna be piss poor, then I mean, you might as well just stick to the
It's
Japanese
something for
dub.
people to consume, though. It's just get it out there, push it out, push it out, push it out because of the craze of anime and stuff. You know.
Oh yeah,
over
I
the
mean,
past few years.
absolutely.
That's all
It's
that
like,
is.
Someone was like, I mean,
It's
They're
sadly the
basically
good
just
stuff gets buried, is what happens.
Yeah.
they were basically like, okay, let's just One Punch Man this and let's get it over with.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
But
a
going
sad
back
trend.
to the original 1998 series, I believe it's 26 episodes long.
That's like what, is that a season or 2 seasons?
I think it's enough to be one whole season, if not 2 seasons, just broken
Like
up
with
into the
Cowboy
13
Bebop.
episodes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just give me a episode list, please.
To this day, I
yeah,
still
26 episodes.
Yeah, and I want to say like even Toonami and Adult Swim and all those that were showing it. I think they broke that up. It was like an interstitial almost for a while, and then it became a featured one. But I think only one night a week, if I'm not mistaken, when they were airing
Yeah,
it here. Yeah,
it was.
Checks out with Tsunami.
Yeah, because they got to make
think
room
it was
for all the other stuff that they want to show.
yeah,
We gotta make
but
room
yeah,
for Dragon Ball,
Blue and
Sailor Moon, and
Bebop
Yeah,
and
Dragon Ball, Sailor
Big
Moon,
O.
Cowboy Bebop,
Yeah,
Inuyasha.
Big O.
ugh, yeah, Yu Yu Hakusho, all the others that it kind of got pushed to the side.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
It's like
That Trigun, that was good
we
though.
want to show our better anime before we show the anime that, again, it was the program decided what goes first, and they have Steve Bloom announce which one goes on.
Yeah, the original manga was created by Yasuhiro Naidao, who also made shows like Hellsing and Hellsing Ultimate and the Gungrave series.
Oh, Gungrave was awesome.
Both
Yeah.
didn't last long. Also, Gungrave got turned into a video game series for PS2 and a sequel for the PS4.
Well, I think the Gungrave game came out before the anime.
Probably.
Checks out.
Yeah.
Checks out.
Yeah.
I'll do my later. Yeah. Still, I think Trigun is one of those underrated. But like, if you hear Johnny Young Bosch, like, and yeah,
Yeah.
he
It's one.
he has a recognizable voice.
Yeah. It's one of those series that I highly recommend going in blind and checking out all the 3 major adaptations, the original manga, the 98 anime, and the 2023 Trigun Stampede anime. They're all different. They all touch on the same basic points. Stampede less so because it's trying to be its own thing, but either way, I don't think you can go wrong checking out all 3. But in particular, the original 98 anime has a special place in my heart.
Yeah, and I would definitely call that one of the underrated ones. Just
Oh,
never got the
yeah.
love of some of the others around that
And-
same time. Absolutely.
I agree. I guess I'll go. I don't know if anyone remembers this because I want to say it was on it says for kids, but I felt like I watched it on Kids WB. It's a South Korean animated television series called Cubics Robots for Everyone. It's like basically a cross between Pokemon and Digimon, but with robots. And they did have a
Nope.
toy line for it. There was a toy line for it. I think it was Burger King.
Actually, I
having-
think I know what you're talking about here. Let me pull it up.
Yeah, Cubics Robots is a South Korean show that was on 4Kids, and I want to say Burger King had was giving out toys for it. And if you collected each toy, you were able to build Cubics himself, which was the main character.
Oh yeah, now I remember this.
Cubics?
Oh dude, this show was hell old.
Yeah, Cubics Robots for Everyone. It lasted from 2001 to 2004, and it was only 2 seasons. So somewhere between 2002 and 2003, like, yeah, we're not going to show this show for a while.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the animation it's a whole CGI show. Like, this is like definitely early 2000s CGI when they were like experimenting at the time.
Boy, they really pushed the
Everybody's-
hell out of that, though.
Huh?
So this looks like they really pushed the hell out of it, not to really have anything come out of it. Even a video game. Weird.
Yeah, it got okay for like, yeah, it's so weird. But yeah, the robot Cubics himself, I want to say it was like a toy. It was somewhere. It was a fast food restaurant, and if you collect each individual robot, you were able to build Cubics himself, and he had like different parts, like the legs, arms, the head, the body.
That might have been one that I bought stuff for the kids. You know, some of these I aged out and found my favorites and stuff, and then would only get into newer stuff. Like Bob and I had said previously, you know, with our age, we kind of stopped at certain points, held our favorites, and it really took something special to progress forward with the newer because it was all the same crap. But that one, I probably bought stuff for the kids. It doesn't look overly familiar, but
Yeah, it's
very interesting.
It's over 20 years old. I mean,
Bob, 20 years old. That's old. 20.
20 is an old show.
God.
Yeah.
Well,
You
I
guys
mean,
could all four of you.
Don't mind me, I'll just sit here and cringe and old.
For me, looking at shows like this is like the anime. Like, I will give South Korea this. They like the animation. You can definitely tell. Like, I think the show even took place in Korea as well. I'm not sure. Never
Nice.
said where.
No, that one.
Yeah.
I'd never heard of.
God,
It looks.
go
Sorry.
ahead.
It looks like a more faithful 3D adaptation of Code Lyoko than Code Lyoko eventually got.
Speaking of underrated, oh god. Oh, it's also got there's a main character named Abby. She has red hair. She's voiced by Veronica Taylor, who was known for Ash at the time as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like,
Well,
that's
work
like
is work, right?
Maddie Blaustein, Rachel Lillis, Dan Green, which I feel like I know who he is. Andrew Reynolds.
Yeah, Yami Yugimoto from Yu-Gi-Oh! Knuckles from Sonic X.
Okay.
Oh, Dan Green.
Yeah.
Okay, that Sonic X, that makes sense because that came around the same time as Cubics did, and it was also on 4Kids TV as well.
Yeah.
That one. Yeah. No.
Sonic X was a good, Sonic X was a good show too.
Yeah, shout outs to Discotech Media. They just recently released their Blu-ray of the entire series.
Interesting. But I'm glad, Qeeshon, you remember. I don't know how much you remember from Cubics because it was one of those shows like it was there to just be a filler show for the best one to come out afterwards.
Like I just remember the existence of the show. Maybe like just the fact that it existed and the fact that there were toys for it. Then yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I don't know what happened. 'Cause you feel like with 2001 to 2004 there'd be more seasons. I don't know.
Well, maybe they're relying on the games or something like that. It looks like they're pushing other media more than the toy line. It seems like.
Yeah, because there was like one game as well. It was like PS2 era.